So we really wanted to focus on member experience and how do we improve that with our transformation, and how do we widen and broaden access for our members and for future members. And with that in mind, we started exploring different AI solutions to see what those capabilities could put into bear in terms of those two pillars. And then as we started planning the conversion, we started to get into the tactical weeds and realizing in terms of go live, we were going to face a challenge in terms of calls and call volume. So like a lot of people here that have gone through core conversion, you see very large dramatic spikes in call volumes, right? And we had talked to several of our peers, consultants and so forth, and they said, expect anywhere from 3 or 4 times, call volume for go live and the weeks thereafter. And so we started to think about, well, how do we scale up and what options are there to address that kind of situation? I think it was very traditional, right? I mean, it was all voice, and then we had your traditional audio banking, prior to go live or prior to conversion. And so, yeah, it was very, very traditional. And that was what we were looking to overhaul, right? I mean, you knew we always have the voice component going forward, but when we looked at audio banking capabilities, even in our new core, it wasn't that much of a leap, from where we were with traditional audio banking. So we were really looking for something that had more capability. We looked at a wide swath of vendors and a lot of capabilities. So of course, the technical capabilities had to be there. Were they proven? We didn't want to be bleeding edge. So we were looking at vendors that had a successful track record. They also had to have a clear, kind of vision and roadmap of where they wanted to go. Sometimes when you're dealing with fintechs, they can come across a little bit of as a one-trick pony, if you will. So we wanted somebody that had a bigger vision and ambitions versus just trying to solve one specific problem. Because again, we're looking for a partner and a longer-term relationship there, and somebody that we can grow with. Looking at things, of course, like security, all the givens that you would expect. Strong set of reference customers that we could talk to openly, share challenges with, but they were willing to share their challenges too. These are going to be very complex projects. You don't expect them to go flawlessly. So you want to hear, where are the bumps and bruises along the way? What did you learn? One is a culture fit. Just felt like it was a good culture fit from that perspective. On the capability side, Interface has a strong track record with our new core, which happens to be a Scimitar core. So that was a big plus for us. So we wanted somebody, again, who had that in the AI space, that had worked with our new core and kind of been there, done that. And also we use a voice over IP vendor, RingCentral, and you also had some experience in that space as well. So there were integration pluses that played a key role as well in kind of deciding this makes sense in terms of our path forward. So prior to go live, we were at about 225 calls a day on average with our old core. We literally saw 10x call volume increase. It was a huge number, and we had staffed up. Our call center was typically 5 people. We had ramped up to 15 and added Penny on top of that to try to brace for this, and we were very, very glad we did. From the get-go, Penny took 43% of those calls on day one. In terms of automation, she answered every single one. In our old world, if it was just people, I mean, we couldn't have even answered 2,300 calls, right? So even with ramping up, we needed every ounce of Penny and then some to handle that kind of call volume when that came in. So we were thrilled with that initial result with that level of automation. So she took every call, and 43% of them didn't even make it back to our call center staff, which was fantastic. We're at about 47, heading towards 48 of the latest members I looked up in terms of automation currently. It keeps ramping up. So lots of calls with that big conversion. So she spent a lot of hours on the phone. And those were people we didn't have. We had ramped up and we still didn't have that kind of horsepower without her. So paid huge dividends there. Rates, our abandon rate, our calls have dropped 41% month over month from October to November. So things are starting to normalize. Like I said, we're about 350 to 400 now. So we've certainly come down from the peaks, but we're about 50% above where we were at 225. Now, as we kind of normalize on the new normal, we're introducing a ton of capabilities. So of course we're going to get more questions, and we've automated enough where, we're pausing on having to add staff to that call center because we have Penny. There's enough automation happening that it really is about even in terms of how many extra calls we have versus how much she's automating, which has been great. So we have put on pause our need to expand the call center right now, if you will. We've got enough capacity with what we've got since we've added Penny, which has been. We are seeing interest and engagement in taking advantage of, how do I apply for that loan? What type of loan do you need? We are just scratching the surface there. There's certainly a lot more to do there, but we're excited with the early results. And from our standpoint, what we ended up doing is we had a small core team. We had a team of about 5 people, and it was a mix of call center as well as branch operations and IT. And then depending on the topics we were talking about, we might pull in somebody from lending or somebody from accounting or what have you. But it was really just a small core team of people. Those people met at a regular cadence, usually a couple times a week, as we kick things off with Interface. And Interface has a very good methodology for onboarding new clients. So, they do a great job of sharing templates and specific questions that need to be answered in a requirements gathering. So it's really methodical from that standpoint. Initially, our plan was to split this into 2 phases. So we were going to ease into this like some clients do and say, we'll start with these informational questions. The questions, what are your branch hours? What's the nearest locations in front of the pin, not behind? And so that was our plan. We were going to do informational questions first, and then phase 2 was going to be transactional. As this project got going then, we ran into some challenges in terms of the integration sides with RingCentral and what RingCentral was trying to do on their side. Interface came to the table with a lot of great ideas. And even though there were some experiences there, we were still kind of leading edge on the RingCentral side. And so we learned through that process that we were going to have to make some changes with Ring in terms of what we wanted to do. And so we ended up basically changing our approach because of some delays on the Ring side. And we ended up doing a big bang with Penny at go live. So we never went live with phase 1. We combined phase 1 and 2 into one phase, and we launched at our conversion date with AI for the first time. So we use change management here like a lot of organizations do, creating awareness and desire. A lot of times people hear AI, they've already got some impression in their mind, right? Or some type of bias, positive or negative, right? So we needed to make people aware, why are we going down this path? Why is this path not just good for members, but good for employees? What does this mean? So we spent time doing that, having small group discussions, doing roundtables, and we really wanted to make the call center a part of the process. That was something we learned a lot from the reference customers, was that it's really important to involve, the call center people up front, because their jobs, are impacted, the most, right? And so they were part of this process. They had hunters, if you will, to come up with a name for Penny, really kind of make it more engaging, to see her as a teammate of theirs, if you will, and of Prospera's in general. Kudos to our marketing team. So Christy, our Chief Experience Officer, and Chris, our Director of Marketing, they worked hard with some outside partners to come up with concepts and really kind of, how do we make this personal? Because that's really kind of who we are as Prospera. We want to, individualize what we're delivering to you for services, and help you kind of connect those financial dots. So how are we going to do that in a way that resonates? And so they went through different iterations of Penny, and then kind of matched that with, what was coming up through the contest, if you will, in terms of naming her, what's her name going to be. And of course, everybody kind of fell in love with the name Penny. It was exciting to see. And then of course, the first time you see that in a commercial, and you're like, okay, now it's really alive, right? Then that was exciting. It brought a whole new level of energy, to AI, to the company, where people could really kind of get behind it and have fun with it. And sometimes people would take snapshots of the ad and make little memes out of it. So either way, they were engaged, and they were having a good time with it. It's gone well overall. We're always going to have a subset of people that don't want to use any kind of AI, right? So you're going to have that piece. You're going to have some people that love it. And on the whole, it's been a very positive experience. And we can tell that also just based on utilization. I mean, our call volume in terms of transaction is significant, and it's up over what we had with our traditional, audio banking. And we're getting more calls after hours when people know that representatives aren't here, but Penny's here. Right. So we see that call volume increase. We see those transactions increase off hours. So clearly they're seeing value there because they're using her. We absolutely are. And we are seeing automation increase month over month. And we have found a great partner in interfacing your support teams. They're very responsive to things that we find or our members find and bubble up. And so, if we find, situations where she's not understanding certain phrases or something quite right, usually within a few days, they've got some kind of fix in our UAT environment ready for a quick test to see if it's addressed. We just had one roll out where, she didn't recognize if you said alone too fast, it came across as the word alone instead of alone. But they're very quick to address it and make those changes. and then it kind of seamless after that. So if we can continue to see automation improve, and we're looking forward to that trend continuing. Right now, I mean, we're focused on expanding, transactions, and automating more and more types of transactions with Penny. There's instant benefit there if you pick the right ones as we evaluate those experiences every month and what people are asking for. How do we bring that? Beyond that, as we look at roadmap, we're looking at the voice biometrics. And then beyond that, obviously, Sphere is something new, and introducing smart discovery, smart transactions. The ability to upsell, those are all things, we're talking about, in our roadmaps going forward and how we want to kind of step into these capabilities over time.